Hello. Hello, and welcome. Welcome to 3 tips to keeping your oboe playing well. Thank you for joining me today. You may be, you may have had the experience as an oboe player of your instrument breaking down. Our instruments are finicky, and you may think that it's you, and it's not. Every oboe player experiences this. It's not that you're just unlucky or not mechanically gifted. It's that the oboes themselves are very fragile and finicky. And for that reason, they break down quite often. My name is Erin Brophy. I am the principal oboe player of the Saskatoon Symphony and a sessional lecturer at the University of Saskatchewan. Thank you for joining me today. So you may think that perhaps it was just you, but every oboe player experiences this, and today I'm going to offer 3 tips to keeping your oboe playing well. Why am I doing these live presentations? Well, that has a lot to do with how I got started on the oboe. I'm from a remote part of Canada in Northern Ontario, and it's a place that's beautiful and right now very cold and full of snow. It is a place that is surrounded by rocks and trees and crystal clear lakes. And it was an idyllic place to grow up until I started playing the oboe. I loved growing up in the forest until I needed to get access to how to improve on this beautiful instrument. And because I lived so remotely, I did not have access to good information. I did not have access to a functioning instrument, and I did not have access to functioning reeds. And for that reason, I really struggled. It was so frustrating. I could identify that I did not sound as an oboe was supposed to sound. And as I got closer to that sound, I could identify that there were many more steps I needed to take in order to play this instrument, but I didn't know what to do. And there were many points when I almost gave up playing the oboe because it was just so frustrating. What I didn't realize is without a functioning instrument, I really had no hope of improving. So that's why I'm doing these live presentations, is that I do not want you to have to struggle the way that I did. With this amazing resource called the internet, it's possible to get good information out there, and that's why I'm doing these presentations. It's also why I created a unique online oboe program called the Oboe Path. The Oboe Path uses a group online masterclass, personalized feedback, and a customized, personalized plan to allow an oboe player to play with joy and ease. With the group online masterclass, an oboist joins a community of like-minded oboe players wanting to improve on the instrument. With the personalized one-on-one feedback, an oboe player knows exactly what they need to do to get to the next step on their journey with the oboe. And with the customized, personalized plan, an oboe player is able to go to their practice sessions with a clear idea of how to improve and exactly what to do so that they see the results immediately and that oboe can then fit into their busy lives. So let's get to it. 3 tips to keeping your oboe playing well. So tip number 1 is pretty simple. And it's maybe my favorite tip, and that is to play your oboe. If your oboe has been sitting for a long period of time, that's when some troubles with the instrument can crop up. That's when we are looking at perhaps some pads not sealing, perhaps some rust accumulating on the keywork. Even inside, it may look great, when you look at the instrument, but inside some of these rods, there could be some buildup of gunk. And the oboe is really meant to be played. And that's one of the ways that you can keep it in working order, is to play it every day. And what a joy that is. So that's quite easily done. Now, my second tip is that if your instrument has been sitting for a good deal of time, then what you need to do is take it and get it repaired, get it tuned up. It's much like perhaps your vehicle, where if it's been sitting for 3 or 4 months, when you first go to start it, there might be some, coughing about it, and things just won't function very well. The oboe is the same. It needs to be to have some air blown through it, and in order to keep it functioning. Now, just like with your car, if it's been sitting for a little while, you might take it to a mechanic before you attempt to take that cross-country road trip, for example. I have a story about that, but that's for another time. So, I would recommend taking it to a repairman. Or a repair person, rather, pardon me, non-gendered repair person, so that they can take a look at the instrument and make sure that it's in tip-top shape. Because I have to tell you, as an oboe educator, the number one issue I see when I'm meeting an oboe player for the first time who's really struggling, the number one issue I see is that their oboe does not function. And they think it's them. They think they're bad at playing the oboe. And that just breaks my heart. And it gives me so much joy to be able to adjust their instrument for them. And usually it's just a simple adjustment. It's not something major that you could look at and say, okay, there's a hole in the oboe, it doesn't work. It's just like a minor adjustment that needs to be made. I hand it back to them and I say, look, now try. And all of a sudden they can play the oboe. I mean, it is wonderful to see the look of relief that it wasn't just them. So instruments, and how do these adjustments of this fragile oboe, how do they get out of adjustment? Well, by simple vibration, or of not being used, or of being used quite a bit. That's a lot of things to happen. The vibration in the instrument can be as simple as walking your oboe to school, or walking it to the bus stop, or putting it in your car to drive to rehearsal. The small little vibrations over time make these little adjustment screws move. And because the oboe, it has such a precise place that it needs to be in order for it to function well, if you get a little bit out of alignment, then some of the instrument doesn't work. And that can be very frustrating. So I would suggest sourcing a repair person, an oboe repair person. Now, this comes with a massive caveat, which is, if you live in a smaller city center, it is unlikely that your local woodwind repair technician plays the oboe. If you live in a smaller center and your local woodwind repair person is an oboe player, you are lucky. Because I'm sure that work being done by that repair person is excellent. What I see and hear all the time is that the local repair person, who is, I'm sure, a lovely human being and has the most awesome intentions about helping you play the oboe, is once they have fixed the instrument, they are unable to check their work. Unlike they can check their work on a clarinet and the flute, they can't check their work on the oboe because they don't know how an oboe works and how an oboe is supposed to feel. Even if they've had a limited amount of time on the instrument, they may blame the reed if the oboe isn't functioning very well. So I would encourage you to source a repair person who plays the oboe. There are many amazing technicians that are oboe players that do extraordinary work with being able to make your instrument function better. And they do this extraordinary work, and it just may be that you need to put your oboe in the mail to that person. And I know that can feel scary. I want to assure you that I've mailed my instruments many, many times, many places. And if you feel so inclined to pay for insurance, or that can help you feel a little bit better about being in the mail, I do using a courier service is something that has really helped me feel relaxed about sending my instrument away to be repaired. And it is a necessity, because taking it to your local technician is not going to get you to a functioning instrument. And there are many repair people that specialize specifically in oboe. And so source that person out. It is worth the extra expense because it will give you a functioning instrument. And that is so important. I think that, and feeling comfortable with that is the way of business, of that we mail our instruments to repair people who work on them and then mail them back to us. We can put tracking on them so we can watch its journey and make sure that the oboe is getting where it needs to get to and arriving at your place. Something I like to do is always require a signature so that the oboe is never sitting out anywhere. And that helps me feel really comfortable to send my oboe away. The third thing that I would like to talk about today is annual maintenance. This is going to go a long way towards having an always functioning instrument. Now, you know, because I'm a professional oboe player, and maybe perhaps my personality, I replace my oboe every couple of years. So for that reason, everything is kind of new on the instrument. That is not necessary. It's totally not necessary. You don't have to have a brand new oboe at all. But what I would suggest is that your oboe see a repair person at least once a year. That you plan it out in your schedule that this is when the oboe is going to go to the spa. Now, ideally, it's before something cataclysmic happens. Ideally, it's before your school year starts or your symphony season starts, your community band season starts, whatever, or maybe on a little break if you have a couple of weeks between concerts that you can send your instrument away. Before you send your instrument away, I would suggest connecting with the repair person and getting a timeline as to when you can get that oboe back so that you can plan out your practicing. So sending your oboe away to the spa to be repaired, and you can know that you're going to have your instrument be away. Now, in an ideal world, you have two oboes. We don't always live in an ideal world. That's totally fine. But if you do have that, if you have two instruments, send them one at a time so you can continue to practice. You don't actually have to be as careful as to when you plan it out. You can go more with what the repair person's schedule might be like. And that's a luxury that you can take advantage of because you have more than one instrument. How brilliant. But I would suggest that they maybe keep a schedule. I have like a little piece of paper I keep in my case and I write down, just like they do when I take my car for an oil change. I do drive a hybrid, but we do have to have like an oil change thing. So, and it has that little sticker that tells me the last time I had the oil change. And I find that so helpful. So I do the same thing for my instruments. I just keep a little track in my case so that I know the last time that the instrument was worked on. And I can keep track that I make sure that I'm seeing, you know, as we all know, sometimes the years have a tendency to blend into each other as we all get busy. So keeping track of how often you're getting your instrument looked at will go a long way towards being able to keep your oboe playing well. Because that's what we want. There are so many other factors that make oboe playing difficult, and if we can have a functioning instrument, that's going to go a long way towards changing your frustration about working with this amazing and beautiful instrument. Thank you very much for joining me today for 3 tips to keeping your oboe playing well. If you would like more information or more free resources, I have a link underneath this presentation. It's a link to a video and a free video and a free PDF called How to Choose a Better Oboe Reed. It's about the next step after having a functioning instrument is how do we make sure we have a great reed for our concerts and rehearsals. I hope you enjoyed today, and I look forward to connecting with you soon. Take care.